I've decided to start a new life without you. The words didn't echo. They just settled over the table like a thin layer of dust, coating everything. The clinking of cutlery stopped. Laughter froze in half-open mouths. The string lights above our heads hummed softly, the only thing in the rooftop restaurant that didn't understand what had just been said. My husband, Martin Hale, still had his champagne glass raised, as if he were about to toast our daughter. The speech everyone had been waiting for. Except this wasn't a speech. It was an execution. Across from him, I sat very still. No tears. No shouting. No scene. Just quiet. Did you hear me, Elena?" he added, voice tightening when I didn't crumble on cue. I let my gaze move slowly around the table. Our daughter, Lily, sat to my right in her navy graduation dress, cap still perched slightly crooked on her head. Her smile had vanished, leaving only a pale, stunned stiffness. To my left, my sister-in-law Rachel stared at Martin like she didn't recognize her own brother. Behind Martin, at a table near the glass railing, I caught a glimpse of Sienna Clark, younger, polished, pretending to study the dessert menu as if she had nothing to do with any of this. A few of our longtime friends sat with her, faces carefully neutral. Neutral was always easier than honest. For 27 years, I had played my role to perfection. Elena Mercer, patient wife, steady mother, the one who kept the ground from falling out beneath everyone else. I'd paused my own ambitions, postponed my own dreams, told myself that later was an acceptable place to live. Tonight, apparently, Martin had decided that my contract had expired. I lifted my own glass, feeling the cool stem between my fingers. "Congratulations," I said calmly. On finally saying it out loud. A murmur moved through the guests like a breeze before a storm. This was supposed to be Lily's night. Her degree. Her future. Instead, her father had chosen this moment, this stage, this audience to make his grand exit. I reached into my clutch and took out a dark blue envelope, thick, expensive, sealed with a clean line of gold wax. I set it beside his plate, gently, as if it were nothing more than a folded napkin. His brow furrowed. "What's that?" "Something for you," I replied, my voice steady. "You might want to read it somewhere quiet." His fingers hovered over the envelope but didn't open it. Of course he didn't. Martin loved control, not surprises. I stood and turned to Lily, cupping her cheek with my hand. Her eyes were glassy, confusion and hurt competing for space. "This day is still yours," I whispered. "No one can take that from you." Then, I straightened, facing the dozens of people who had come to celebrate with us, though some of them had known for weeks what I was only now being publicly informed of. "Please," I said, with a small, polite smile, "enjoy your evening. The view is beautiful. The food is excellent." I didn't wait for anyone to speak. I walked away from the table, from the white tablecloths and the chilled champagne and the carefully orchestrated humiliation. The night air outside was warmer than I expected, humid and heavy, but it felt cleaner than the air I'd been breathing inside. The restaurant door burst open behind me. "Elena." Martin's voice cracked, not nearly as confident without an audience. "What have you done? What is this?" I didn't turn around. Because what he was really asking wasn't about the envelope. He was asking how long I'd known, and how far ahead of him I actually was. And the truth was, that envelope was only the first move. The door behind me slammed again, louder this time. Footsteps, Martin's, fast and uneven, crossed the rooftop tiles. "Elena, stop," he snapped. "We're not doing this here." I paused at the far end of the terrace, just enough to make him think he had caught up. The city lights glittered below us, thousands of windows, each holding a life I wasn't living. "Not yet." "I didn't do anything here," I said calmly, turning to face him. "You did." He reached me, breathing hard, the envelope still clenched in his fist. The gold wax seal was cracked, the first fracture of the evening. "You blindsided me," he hissed quietly, as if the humiliation belonged to him. This is low, Elena. Even for you." I almost laughed. After 27 years, this man still believed that kindness was weakness, and silence meant obedience. You chose the stage, I reminded him. I simply let the curtain rise. His jaw ticked. Anger, confusion, fear, they all flickered across his face, none of them stopping long enough to ground him. He wasn't used to feeling small. He wasn't used to me making him feel small. I don't understand, he muttered, looking down at the envelope. What is this? Where did you even get? You'll understand when you read it, I said softly. But I doubt you'll enjoy the realization. For a moment, the wind pressed the hem of my dress against my legs. The city hummed beneath us. Somewhere inside, a champagne cork popped, too cheerful, too oblivious. Why tonight, he demanded. Why ruin Lily's moment? I didn't ruin anything, I said. You did. But you already knew that. His expression shifted. Unease. Recognition. A flicker of awareness that the woman standing before him was not the one he had expected to destroy so easily. He held up the envelope like evidence. This is too prepared, he said slowly. Too deliberate. You knew I was leaving before I said anything. I didn't answer. Because silence, when used correctly, cuts deeper than words. Elena, how long have you known? He asked, voice cracking on the question he didn't want to ask. Long enough, I said. I watched the truth crawl up his spine, stiffening his posture. He suddenly looked older. Smaller. Exactly the size of his choices. You're not going to make this easy, are you? He whispered. That depends, I replied, stepping closer, lowering my voice until only he could hear it. Did you really expect me to collapse, Martin? After everything? He swallowed hard, and for the first time in years, he had no scripted response. No approval to withhold. No weakness to exploit. Just the cold awareness that he no longer understood the woman in front of him. Inside, I could hear murmurs, our guests whispering, speculating, shifting the narrative like vultures picking at a fresh rumor. Lily was crying quietly. Rachel was trying to guide her away. And Sienna. Sienna was watching us with that familiar smugness of someone who thinks youth is a substitute for character. Martin finally tore the envelope open. A single sheet slid out. He unfolded it. His face drained of color as he read the first line. You, his voice broke. You met with a lawyer? I said nothing. You divorcing me? Still nothing. And, he read further, eyes widening. No. No, Elena, you can't do this. You can't file with grounds. He stopped. Because he realized I not only could. I already had. He looked up, trembling. You're destroying my life. No, I corrected gently. I'm simply handing you the consequences of your own. His fingers crushed the paper, desperation turning to dread. But why file first? He whispered. Why take everything before I even left you? I held his gaze. For the first time in our marriage, he saw the truth, not the woman he had shaped, but the one he had underestimated. Because, Martin, I said softly. The person who files first, controls the narrative. This time, he truly understood. And that was only the beginning. What he didn't know yet, was that the narrative was about to turn into a storm. Martin stared at me like he was seeing a stranger wearing my skin. A breath trembled out of him, uneven, desperate, almost childlike. The paper shook in his hand. Elena, please, he whispered, glancing toward the restaurant door. Not here. People are watching. They watched you, I reminded him quietly. You didn't seem to mind then. He flinched. His eyes darted past me, toward the glass railing where the city glowed beneath us. He wasn't afraid of losing me. He was afraid of losing perception, his favorite currency. Behind the door, laughter had resumed in small, uneasy bursts. Someone turned up the live band, as if music could dull the edges of humiliation. And then she stepped outside. Sienna Clark. Her heels clicked softly against the tile. Young. Polished. Dressed in a fitted emerald dress that shimmered under the lights like envy itself. Sienna, Martin snapped, panicked. Go inside. Now. But she didn't move. She stayed exactly where she was, arms crossed, chin tilted, eyes trained on us with the subtle entitlement of someone who believed she'd already won. I think I should stay, she said. Since this involves me too. Her voice didn't have the weight of guilt. Only possession. I turned my head, studying her, not with anger, but with the cool observation one gives a painting you've already understood in a single glance. Careful, I murmured. You're stepping into a conversation you don't fully understand. Sienna's eyes narrowed. Actually, I think I understand perfectly. Martin didn't choose you. He chose me. Anne. Chosen? I repeated softly, almost amused. Martin shot her a look that begged her to stop talking. She ignored it. You had a long run, she continued. But people change. Desires change. Some women hold a man back without realizing it. Some men simply outgrow their wives. She said it smugly, like a victory speech. I didn't react. Reactions are gifts. And I owed her nothing. Sienna, Martin hissed, stop. No, she insisted, stepping closer. She needs to hear this. You've been suffocating him, Elena. He told me everything. About how trapped he felt. About how much he. I cut her off with a small, calm smile. Did he also tell you, I asked quietly, that the house you've been visiting is in my name? Her expression flickered. Just once. A blink of confusion. And did he tell you, I continued, that the business account he uses to pay for your little outings is also registered under my authorization? Her posture stiffened. Elena, Martin breathed, voice cracking. Don't. And finally, I said, stepping just close enough that Sienna could see the steadiness in my eyes, did he tell you that the man you won is currently unemployed because he was fired 2 weeks ago? Silence. Sharp. Instant. So clean it felt surgical. I watched her lips part, confusion blooming into something darker, calculation, then panic. Martin's shoulders collapsed inward, shame burning across his face. He what? Sienna whispered. Martin, you told me you resigned. He closed his eyes. And the first fracture appeared. Not in him, but in her trust. People who chase stolen love never expect to inherit the truth. He didn't resign, I said. He was dismissed. And the details will be public next week. Sienna stepped back, the realization hitting her like cold water. She looked at Martin, not with love, but with evaluation. Reassessing the man she'd gambled her youth for. You lied, she said quietly. About everything. He reached for her hand. She withdrew it. He reached for his excuses. They failed him. This isn't what it looks like, he pleaded. Oh, Martin, I whispered, it's exactly what it looks like. For the first time since stepping outside, I felt the wind shift. Not toward him, not toward her. But toward me. And this was only the smallest corner of the truth. Because what Sienna was about to learn next would shatter the illusion she had built her entire future on. For a moment, none of us spoke. The wind tugged at Sienna's hair. The city hum echoed beneath the terrace. Somewhere inside, a waiter dropped a fork, an awkward clatter that felt almost symbolic. Sienna stepped back again, this time steadying herself on the railing. When were you going to tell me? She whispered to Martin, betrayal dripping from each word. Martin opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Cowards never had trouble speaking. Until the truth forced them to. Oh my God, Sienna murmured, turning toward me, her confidence unraveling thread by thread. Is this why you filed first? Because he's basically broke? I didn't respond. The truth didn't need my defense. Elena, Martin pleaded, his voice cracking. Stop making it sound like I'm some failure. You're not a failure, Martin, I said softly. You're a man who mistook distraction for escape. That's not the same thing. But consequences, don't care about the difference. His face twisted, anger, shame, desperation, all fighting for dominance. You knew, he accused. You knew I got fired. You knew everything. How? I tilted my head slightly, studying him the way one studies a man standing in a hole he dug himself. 27 years teaches you many things. But the most underrated skill is noticing patterns. You forget, I said quietly. I used to be the woman you talked to. The one you confided in. I learned every detail of your life before you learned to hide it. Sienna's eyes snapped toward him. Hide what? I looked at her then, not with cruelty, not with pity, but with a calm clarity she'd never seen before. I don't blame you, I said gently. Truly. You fell in love with the version of him he constructed for you. The confident man. The ambitious man. The successful man. The man who had a stable home, a loving wife, a daughter graduating with honors. Her throat bobbed as she swallowed. And I'm guessing, I continued, he told you he paid for everything. That he built his life with hard work and determination. Her eyes widened, recognition blooming. Because she had indeed been fed that narrative. But the truth is, I said, letting the silence stretch before cutting it cleanly. Martin didn't build the foundation he stands on. I did. Every financial decision, every investment, every asset, he rode the benefits without ever carrying the weight. Martin's voice rose in a broken protest. That's not fair. It's accurate, I corrected softly. Sienna's arms wrapped around herself. She looked nauseous, fragile, betrayed not just by the lie, but by how expertly the lie had been told. Is everything she's saying true? She asked him, her voice trembling. I didn't want to overwhelm you, Martin stammered. You didn't need to know all the details. I was protecting you. Protecting me, she hissed. You were protecting your pride. Her heels shifted on the tile as she paced away from him, one hand covering her mouth. She looked like a woman trying to piece together a puzzle that suddenly had missing pieces. And then her eyes landed on me again. What else don't I know? She whispered. The question hung in the air, heavy, trembling, and painfully honest. I met her gaze. There's more, I said softly. Much more. Her breath hitched. Martin stepped forward, panic overtaking his voice. Elena, stop. You're going too far. I didn't look at him. Because this wasn't about punishing Sienna. This was about revealing the architecture of deception Martin had built. Brick by brick, lie by lie. And Sienna had every right to see the blueprint. Elena, she whispered, voice shaking. Please tell me. I exhaled slowly. What I'm about to reveal, I said, will change everything you think you know. Sienna froze. Martin flinched. The night held its breath. And what I was about to say next would rip the final layer off Martin's carefully constructed facade. Sienna moved closer, slow and hesitant, as though stepping toward the truth might burn her. Her mascara smudged slightly beneath her lower lashes, proof that somewhere between confidence and collapse, she had lost her footing. What is it? She whispered. What is he hiding? Martin dragged a shaky hand through his hair. Elena, if you say anything more, I swear. You swear what? I asked quietly. That you'll leave me? You already did that tonight. You chose your stage. I'm simply choosing the lighting. His face flushed with humiliation. I could feel the restaurant's audience behind the glass, curtains of whispers, tilted heads, people pretending not to look while looking at everything. Humans love witnessing a downfall, as long as it isn't their own. Sienna blinked rapidly, trying to regain some composure. Her voice cracked anyway. Just tell me the truth, Elena. Please. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't break my calm. The reason you never saw the inside of Martin's office, I said softly, is because it hasn't existed for weeks. He didn't lose his job because of budget cuts. He was terminated for misconduct. Martin's head snapped up. Stop. But the words had already left me. Sienna's breath faltered. Misconduct? What do you mean? Martin lunged forward as if he could physically stop the truth. Elena. I stepped back, not from fear, but to make sure he understood he no longer had the right to come near me. Your relationship with him, I continued, wasn't the only one. Sienna's face drained of color. Her lips parted slowly, trembling. What? She whispered. Martin staggered. That's not, no, Sienna, don't listen to her. But Sienna wasn't listening to him anymore. She was watching me with wide, terrified eyes. He wasn't fired for anything to do with you, I said. He was fired because he had been involved with an employee. Someone significantly younger than you. Someone whose parents threatened legal action. Someone his company couldn't afford to protect. Sienna covered her mouth with her hand, her entire body trembling. He cheated on me, she whispered. While he was cheating with me? The irony sliced the air cleanly. Martin reached for her. Sienna, please, let me explain. She jerked away from him like his touch was poison. Explain what? That you were using me as a transition? That while I thought you loved me, you were busy chasing someone who could barely rent a hotel room legally? Martin's face twisted with panic. That's not what happened. I didn't know what I wanted back then. I was confused. You're still confused, I said quietly. Except now the truth is doing the explaining for you. Sienna backed away until her shoulders hit the railing. Her breathing grew sharp and uneven, like reality had finally caught up to her. How long, she asked, her voice a breaking whisper. How long did you know about all of this? I looked her in the eye. The day I found out you weren't the only girl whose name appeared on his hotel receipts, was the day I stopped crying for him, I replied. Sienna let out a sound between a sob and a gasp. Martin looked like a man drowning on dry land. Elena, he said hoarsely, you're destroying me. No, I corrected gently. You destroyed yourself. I'm simply holding up the mirror. A long, trembling silence stretched between us. The band inside switched to a slower melody, romantic, aching, completely wrong for the moment. It drifted out to the terrace like mockery. Sienna wiped her cheeks with a shaking hand. I need to leave, she murmured, stumbling toward the door. But she stopped. Turned back toward me. Her voice was broken, but sincere. Thank you for telling me. And then she walked inside, shoulders shaking, mascara streaking down her cheeks, leaving Martin alone with the truth he'd spent months running from. He turned to me, face crumpling. Elena, what do you want from me? I held his gaze. For the first time in our entire marriage, he looked small. Human. Unprotected by lies. What I want. I echoed softly. It's already in motion. His breath caught. Because he finally understood. This wasn't the climax. This was only the first crack. And what came next would dismantle everything he thought he controlled. Martin stood frozen, as though the air around him had become too heavy to breathe. His shoulders sagged beneath the weight of truths he had spent years burying. Elena, please, he murmured, voice barely holding itself together. Just tell me what you're planning. I stepped past him and rested my hands on the cool metal railing. The city below glowed like a constellation of lives that had nothing to do with ours. It felt strangely comforting, knowing how small we were in a world that kept moving regardless of our chaos. I'm not planning anything, I said softly. He flinched. Don't lie, he whispered. I know you. You're too calm. You're always calm when you've decided something. I didn't look at him. Because calmness wasn't the absence of emotion. It was the presence of clarity. Inside the restaurant, someone tried to restart a toast, their voice trembling with forced cheer. Guests shifted awkwardly, pretending not to see the aftermath bleeding onto the terrace. Rachel stepped out slowly, her face pale, eyes glossy. "Elena," she said gently, "Lily's asking for you." "She's scared." My chest tightened slightly. Not from Martin, never from him. But from the thought of my daughter absorbing all this at once. "I'll talk to her," I said. "Give me a moment." Rachel nodded, but before she could leave, she turned to Martin. "What were you thinking?" she whispered, disappointment sharp in her voice. "You humiliated your own family. On her graduation night." Martin closed his eyes, as if her words landed like blows. "Rachel," he muttered, "please, not you too." "Who else did you expect?" she replied, voice cracking. "You broke your wife's dignity in front of strangers. You broke your daughter's heart. And for what? For someone who didn't even stay?" She shook her head slowly. "You deserve whatever's coming next." She left without waiting for him to respond. For a moment after she walked away, there was only silence, broken, aching, honest silence. Martin swallowed hard, his voice rough. "Elena, if there's anything left between us, even a memory, please don't turn this into war." I turned my head slightly, enough to see his face. His fear wasn't loud, it lived quietly behind his eyes, trembling beneath the surface. "There won't be a war," I replied. "I'm not fighting you. I'm letting go of you." He stared at me, confusion and dread mixing into something fragile. "But why file everything before tonight?" he whispered. "Why set this in motion before I said anything?" I let the question settle between us. The truth, when revealed slowly, always hit harder. "Because I learned something months ago," I said quietly. "Something that made me realize waiting for you to choose was a waste of my life." His brows pulled together. What did you learn?" I slowly turned to face him fully. "That you hadn't just betrayed me," I said. "You had betrayed someone else too. Someone who trusted you in ways neither Sienna nor I ever did." His face blanched. "Elena, please don't." But I wasn't finished. "You lied about finances. You lied about work. You lied about fidelity. But the worst lie," I said, "was the one you told our daughter." Martin's breath caught audibly. "She never deserved that," I continued, voice steady but laced with quiet hurt. "And you will answer for it." His eyes shone with panic, real panic, not the performative kind he was used to offering whenever he needed pity. "Elena," he whispered, "don't involve Lily. Don't." "You already did," I said. The band's music drifted onto the terrace again, soft, melancholic, almost too fitting. I walked past him without another word. He didn't follow. He couldn't. The truth had finally pinned him to the moment he had been avoiding for months. Inside, Lily sat curled in a corner booth, shoulders shaking, eyes red. When she saw me, she stood and fell straight into my arms. "Mom," she whispered, voice fractured. "Why did he do that? Why tonight?" I held her tight, gently smoothing her hair, grounding her trembling body. "We'll talk," I said softly. "I promise. But not tonight." Tonight was for truth to settle like ash after a fire. And the real story. The part Martin feared most. Hadn't even begun to unfold. Because the lie he told Lily was the one that would cost him everything. Lily's hands clung to the fabric of my dress, knuckles pale from the force of her grip. Her breath stuttered against my shoulder, that soft, fractured rhythm only a wounded child makes, even when that child is 22 and trying to pretend she's grown. "Mom. I don't understand," she whispered. Her voice alone could have cracked stone. I guided her back into the booth, brushing strands of hair behind her ear. Her eyes, usually bright, stubborn, curious, looked clouded, darkened by confusion and humiliation. "You weren't supposed to understand tonight," I murmured. "None of this was meant for you." Rachel hovered nearby like a silent shield, her presence soft but steady. She gave me a small nod before stepping away to give us space. Lily wiped her cheeks with the back of her hand. He said you were the reason he was unhappy. That you were holding him back. He told me I'd understand when I got older. She swallowed hard. I think he wanted me to take his side. The words pierced deeper than Martin ever could. What else did he tell you? I asked gently. Lily hesitated. And then her voice broke. He said you were the reason our college fund kept shrinking. That you were careless with money. That you made bad decisions. Her breath hitched. He made me believe you almost ruined my tuition. There it was. The lie I'd discovered, the lie that changed everything. I felt my pulse tighten, not with anger, but with a grief so heavy it felt like a bruise. Lily, I said softly, placing my hand over hers, you have never had a tuition problem. Not one day. Not $1. She blinked. But he said. I know what he said. My voice remained calm. Controlled. But my heart ached for the child who had been manipulated by the man who was supposed to protect her. Every semester, every payment, every scholarship submission, every financial form, I handled all of it, I told her. And every cent was always there. Because I made sure it was. Lily's lips trembled. Then why would he lie like that? To me? Because cowards never carry the weight of their choices. They drag it behind them, hoping someone else will trip first. But I didn't say that. Instead, I squeezed her hand. He lied because he needed someone to blame, I whispered. And he knew you trusted him. Lily pressed a hand to her mouth. A soft, pained sound escaped her, half sob, half realization. I thought he was helping me, she said. I thought he was being honest. I know, I whispered. He used your faith in him as a shield. Her tears spilled again, quiet, raw. I feel stupid. I lifted her chin gently. No. Don't ever say that. Loving your father isn't a mistake. Being misled by him isn't stupidity. It's betrayal. She broke then, leaning into me, shoulders trembling as silent tears soaked my sleeve. I held her, steady and calm, the way I always had. And as I held her, I felt the anger settle into something colder. Calmer. Sharper. He didn't just betray his wife. He weaponized his own daughter. That was the moment I knew. He didn't deserve to hold the title of father. Lily eventually pulled away, wiping her cheeks. What happens now? She asked, voice hoarse. Now? I said softly, smoothing her hair again. Now we protect your future. Something he failed to do. She nodded slowly, understanding more than her trembling voice could express. Then she whispered, does he know you found out? A faint smile touched my lips, gentle, steady, unshaken. That's the part he'll learn soon enough. Lily exhaled shakily. Is this why you filed first? Because of me? Yes, I whispered. Because I will forgive what he did to me, but I will never forgive what he tried to do to you. Lily closed her eyes, letting the truth settle deep within her. And just then, a shadow shifted near the terrace door. Martin. Standing there. He had heard every word. His face drained of all color, all arrogance, all excuses. He finally realized what he had lost. But he still didn't know that the real blow, the one he could never escape, was coming next. Martin stood at the terrace doorway like a man who had wandered into his own disaster. His suit looked suddenly too big for him. His posture hunched, almost apologetic. But his eyes were the eyes of someone who had finally realized that the world he built on lies was collapsing, quietly, elegantly, around him. Elena, he said, voice barely audible, I didn't mean for her to hear any of that. I turned slowly, keeping Lily beside me, one hand resting gently on her shoulder. Her breathing was steadier now, still fragile, but grounded by truth. You didn't mean for her to hear it, I echoed softly. But you meant every word you told her. He stepped toward us. Lily flinched. He froze. Good. Let him feel what distance really means. Lily, he whispered, reaching out a hesitant hand. Sweetheart, I can explain. No, she said, voice trembling but firm. Don't call me sweetheart. Not tonight. Martin's hand dropped. Inside, glasses clinked awkwardly. Someone cleared their throat. A few guests pretended to scroll their phones, though every one of them was listening. Public humiliation wasn't revenge. It was simply the truth refusing to stay quiet. Lily, he tried again, I said those things because I thought it was complicated. I was overwhelmed. You blamed Mom because you were cheating, Lily said. You blamed her because you didn't want to look like a bad father. She didn't shout. She didn't tremble. Her words landed with more force than any raised voice could have. Martin swallowed. I didn't want you to think I was failing. You were failing, Lily whispered. But not at work, at being honest. He looked at me then, desperate, pleading. Elena, please, he begged. Don't turn her against me. I know I messed up, but she's my daughter, she's all I have. All you have? I repeated quietly. He blinked, startled by my tone. What you have, I said, are consequences. A flicker of anger flared in his eyes. You're enjoying this, he snapped. Watching me fall apart. I'm not watching anything, I replied calmly. You dismantled your own life. I'm simply refusing to clean the mess you made. His jaw flexed, humiliation simmering beneath the surface. You can't take her from me, he said hoarsely. She's mine too. I met his gaze evenly, my voice steady as glass. You lost the right to influence her the moment you turned her trust into a weapon. He staggered back. Not physically, emotionally. Like the words knocked something loose inside him. Lily whispered, Mom, should we go? I nodded. Get your coat, sweetheart. She went to retrieve it, wiping the last trace of tears from her face. Martin watched her go, guilt hollowing him from the inside out. Once she was out of earshot, he turned to me, voice raw. Elena, please. I'm begging you. Don't take her away from me. I know I made mistakes, but you can't cut me out of her life. I inhaled slowly. I'm not cutting you out, I said. But I am protecting her from you. He shook his head, panic growing. You can't make decisions like that alone. You made decisions alone for years, I said quietly. He stared at me, speechless. Then I added, without raising my voice. And the judge will see that. His breath stuttered, fear tightening like a fist around his ribs. You filed custody too, he whispered. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. His face collapsed. Elena, no, please, not custody. I stepped back, keeping my tone calm, composed, unshakable. You say she's all you have, Martin. But you never treated her like she was a priority. Only a prop. Someone to hold your image together. He covered his face with both hands, voice cracking. What do you want from me? Nothing, I said. I want nothing from you. The words hit him harder than any revenge could. Because needing nothing from someone who thrives on control is the ultimate loss for them. Lily returned with her coat, cheeks still damp but chin held high. She took my hand without hesitation. Let's go home, she whispered. As we walked toward the stairs, Martin's voice trembled behind us. Elena. I'm begging you. Please. Don't do this. I'll fix everything. I'll do whatever you want. I stopped. Turned. Looked him in the eyes. You can't fix what you never valued. Then I walked away with my daughter, leaving him standing in the ruins of his own choices. What he didn't know. What he couldn't even imagine. Was that tonight was only the emotional fallout. The financial reckoning. The one that would dismantle the life he built on lies. Hadn't even begun yet. The drive home was quiet, not heavy, but healing. Lily sat beside me, her head resting against the window, her fingers loosely entwined with mine. The city lights washed over her face in soft, shifting colors, blue, gold, pink, like the world was trying to soothe her in its own way. When we reached the house, she paused at the doorway, hesitating. "Mom," she murmured, "is it really over now? With him?" I brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. "It's over," I said gently. "But endings don't always mean loss. Sometimes they mean clarity." She nodded, though I could still see her heart trying to untangle the grief from the truth. That's the hardest part of betrayal, the echo lingers long after the noise is gone. "Go rest," I told her. "We'll talk in the morning." She hugged me, a tight, grateful squeeze, then disappeared into her room. The soft click of her door closing felt like an exhale. I stood alone in the quiet hallway for a long moment. Then I walked into the study. The overhead lamp cast a warm pool of light across the desk, illuminating neat stacks of documents, each labeled with care. I had placed them here days ago, preparing for the inevitable. Because revenge was never the goal. Protection was. Dignity was. Truth was. I took a seat and pulled forward the folder that mattered most tonight, one with a thin red tab. Financial disclosures, Martin Hale. Inside were pages of statements, transfers, and receipts. Every transaction he thought I would never see. I flipped through them slowly, my fingertips brushing each page with a quiet, deliberate calm. Hotel invoices. Unexplained withdrawals. Payments to a name I didn't recognize. Money moved into an account he opened alone. Money moved out the moment he got fired. Patterns emerge when people think you aren't looking. Martin had always underestimated my intelligence. My patience. My silence. He mistook stillness for surrender. But stillness is simply the moment before the tide turns. As I continued reading, one particular entry caught my eye, larger, bolder. A transfer to a property management company. A security deposit. A lease. He had been preparing a new home. Not for himself. For his next life. His next image. His next performance. I let out a breath, not anger, not pain. Something lighter. Something like clarity settling into bone. He had built an escape route with money he didn't actually own. And tomorrow morning, when the attorneys received the final set of documents I'd prepared, that escape route would close. A quiet sound interrupted my thoughts, soft footsteps in the hallway. Rachel appeared in the doorway, her face gentle, eyes searching. "Can I come in?" she asked. I nodded. She stepped inside and took a seat beside me, glancing at the open folder. "Elena," she whispered, "I'm so sorry." I met her gaze. "None of this is your fault." "I know, but I still feel like I should have seen it sooner. He's my brother, but he's not the man we grew up with." She exhaled shakily. "I don't even recognize him anymore." "People reveal themselves slowly," I said. "And sometimes too late." Rachel nodded, tears gathering at her lashes. "What can I do to help?" "Be there for Lily," I said simply. "She needs steady people right now." "I will. Always." Silence settled between us, a soft, understanding silence. Then Rachel hesitated, lowering her voice. "Elena, you should know something." She swallowed. "I think Martin's been hiding more than just infidelity and money issues. Something bigger. Something he didn't want even me to know." I looked up slowly. "What do you mean?" Rachel wrung her hands nervously. "Last week he asked to borrow money. A lot of money. And when I asked why, he panicked. He said it was for something urgent, but he wouldn't look me in the eye." My pulse steadied into something colder. "How much?" I asked. She whispered the number. It was far more than any affair, or hotel receipt, could explain. A quiet chill slid through me. What was he paying for? Rachel asked. I closed the folder gently, my mind already assembling the pieces. Something, I said, he was terrified I would discover. Rachel leaned forward. What is it, Elena? I stood slowly, walking to the window as the dark sky pressed against the glass. I'm not certain, I said. But I'm going to find out. The house felt impossibly quiet. Too quiet. Because somewhere inside that silence was the truth Martin feared most. And what I uncovered next would make everything else look small. The next morning, the house felt heavy with the kind of quiet that follows an emotional storm, still, fragile, waiting to breathe again. I walked into the kitchen and found Lily curled up at the table, hands around a mug of tea she probably hadn't touched. Her eyes were puffy but clearer. Clear enough to see the world differently now. Morning, she whispered. I kissed the top of her head. Morning, sweetheart. Rachel had stayed the night. I could hear her moving around in the guest room. A protective presence, quietly orbiting us. I poured myself a cup of coffee, letting the warmth settle into my palms. I'd slept barely 2 hours, not from distress, but from clarity sharpening itself through the night. Lily watched me carefully. Is he going to be okay? She asked softly. A simple question. An impossible answer. Yes, I said gently. Eventually. But not today. Today is about truth. She nodded, absorbing it with a maturity she didn't ask for but suddenly had. I sat with her for a few quiet minutes, then excused myself and walked into the study. The financial folder waited for me like a door I had only partially opened. I took a deep breath, reopened it, and went directly to the suspicious transfer, the one Rachel mentioned. The number looked even larger in the morning light. The money had gone to a company I didn't recognize. Briarwood Legal Services. Not his employer. Not a bank. Not a property agency. A private entity. Shady, discreet, and far too expensive for something innocent. My heart didn't race. It narrowed, sharp, focused. I typed the company name into my laptop. Nothing surfaced, no website, no listing, no public data. Exactly the kind of business people use when they're trying to disappear something, or someone. A knock on the door broke the silence. Rachel peeked in. Can we talk? I motioned her inside. She sat down hesitantly, wringing her hands, nervous in a way she wasn't last night. Elena, I didn't want to tell you this before because I wasn't sure, but I need to now. Her voice trembled. When Martin asked me for money, he was scared. I mean really scared. Like he'd messed up something bigger than cheating. She swallowed hard. I think he owed someone, she whispered. I leaned back slowly. That would explain the transfers. And his panic, Rachel added. He didn't say who it was, but he said if he didn't pay, something unmanageable would happen. Unmanageable. Martin never used vague words unless he was terrified of saying the truth out loud. Do you think it was gambling? She asked. I shook my head. Gambling doesn't require secrecy like this. Drugs? No. Blackmail? I paused. A long, deliberate pause. Rachel stilled, watching my expression shift. Elena, she whispered. What is it? I opened a second folder, one I had been gathering for weeks. Screenshots. Emails. Voicemails. Lies don't exist alone. They cluster. And Martin had been weaving a web that extended far beyond infidelity. I slid a document toward her. What is that? She asked. Proof, I said softly. Of something Martin never wanted either of us to find. The document was a letter, dated 6 months ago. A legal warning addressed directly to Martin. My own name was in the letter too. Not as the sender. As the victim. Rachel's eyes widened. He was being investigated? For this? I nodded. You think that's why he lost his job, she whispered. I don't think, I replied calmly. I know. She pressed her hand to her mouth. Elena, he's been hiding this from you for months. This is serious. It is, I said. But it's also important. Why? I closed the folder with quiet finality. Because it means everything he's done, every lie he told, wasn't about desire. It was about fear. Rachel whispered, fear of what? I looked toward the window. The sunlight hit the glass with a cold, sharp glow. Fear of losing everything he pretended to be, I said. And fear of me finding out what he did. Rachel's voice dropped to a whisper. What did he do? Before I could answer, a vibration broke the silence. My phone lit up. Unknown caller. No caller ID. Rachel stiffened. Are you going to answer? Yes. I picked up. Hello? A voice I recognized immediately spoke on the other end. Sharp. Unsteady. Fractured. Elena. Martin's breathing was uneven. I need to see you. I closed my eyes, letting his panic wash through the line without touching me. What happened, Martin? He choked on the words. Elena, please. We need to talk. Now. It's urgent. My voice stayed calm. Why? His next words came out as a whisper, terrified, cracking. Because the thing I was afraid of, just found me. Rachel froze. I didn't speak. Elena, he whispered again, please, come. I don't have anyone else. I exhaled slowly. The air shifted. The story pivoted. Because in that moment, I realized. The real confrontation wasn't between me and him. It was between him and the consequences he thought he could outrun. And now the consequences had caught up. And what I walked into next was far darker than anything he had prepared me for. I drove to him. Not because he asked. Not because I cared about his excuses. But because some endings don't wait politely. They arrive whether you're ready or not. The address he sent wasn't a home. It was a small, anonymous apartment complex at the edge of the city. The kind people use when they want to vanish without asking permission. I parked and stepped out. The air smelled of cold metal and damp concrete. The corridors were narrow, dimly lit, humming faintly with flickering fluorescent lights. He was waiting outside Unit 2C. Slumped against the wall. Breathing like a hunted man. When he saw me, something inside him broke open. Elena, thank God, he whispered. I didn't move closer. Didn't flinch. Didn't offer comfort. What happened? I asked calmly. He swallowed hard, eyes darting everywhere except at me. They came, he whispered. Who? He shook his head violently. I don't know their names, just that they knew things. They knew where I lived. Where I worked. They said I owed them. That if I didn't pay by the end of the month. Martin. My voice cut through his panic like clean air. Focus. What are you involved in? He dragged a shaking hand through his hair. I made a mistake, he said. A big one. Which one? I asked. There are so many to choose from. He winced. Elena, please. I'm begging you, don't do this now. His desperation didn't move me. Not anymore. What did you do? I repeated. He sank down onto the cold concrete step, burying his face in his hands. You remember that consulting side job I took on last year, he whispered. The one he claimed was harmless, temporary, and private. I felt a slow, quiet shift inside me. What about it? It wasn't legitimate. His voice cracked. I didn't know at first. They said it was just data organization, contract work. Quick money. And later? Later, he whispered, his breath shaking, I found out they were laundering money through the accounts. My blood chilled, but my face did not. And you kept working for them, I said. A statement, not a question. He nodded miserably. I tried to quit, but once you're in, you're in. They said if I talked, they'd come after me. They said they had people everywhere. I panicked. I didn't know what to do. And then work fired me because someone reported suspicious activity. Suspicious activity. Someone. I knew who. But I let the silence hold him accountable before I spoke. And the money? I asked quietly. The large transfers? The loan you asked Rachel for? He lifted his head slowly, eyes red. It was to pay them back, he choked out. They said the debt increased because of interest, penalties, whatever they made up. I tried to buy time, Elena. I was so scared. I said nothing. I only watched him unravel. Then today, he whispered, they came to the office building. They found me. They said if I didn't pay by next week, they'd come after people I care about. He looked up, finally meeting my eyes. That includes you. And Lily. For the first time, there was a flicker of something real in his voice. Not manipulation. Not theatrics. Fear. Genuine fear. I need your help, he said. Please. I don't know what to do. I stood still, feeling the weight of his confession settle like dust around us, fine, quiet, inescapable. You had months, I said softly. Months to tell me the truth. I know, he whispered. I know. I was trying to protect you. You weren't protecting me, I said. You were protecting the lie. He flinched as if I'd struck him. Then he whispered something I didn't expect. Elena, you were the only person I thought could save me. A soft, bitter breath escaped me. Save you? I repeated. Martin, the only person who could have saved you, was yourself. His shoulders collapsed. I stepped back, letting the cold hallway stretch between us. You built this, I said. Brick by brick. Lie by lie. And you stole from me, from our daughter, from your own family to hold it together. He closed his eyes, tears slipping down. Elena. I'm begging you. I don't want to die. I let the silence sit. Not cruelly. Just honestly. Then I took a slow breath. There's one more thing you should know, I said. He looked up, eyes wide. I reached into my coat. Pulled out the second envelope. The one he didn't know existed. I held it out to him. He didn't take it at first, his hands trembled too much. What is this? He whispered. My voice stayed calm. Unshaken. Inevitable. The part of the truth you haven't faced yet. He finally reached for it. His fingers barely touched the flap. Elena, he whispered, voice trembling. What did you do? I met his eyes. Nothing, I said softly. I simply told the truth to the people you were trying to hide from. His breath stopped. Completely. Because that was the moment he finally understood. The person who exposed him wasn't the criminals. It was me. And the reason was something he would uncover when he opened that envelope. Martin stared at the envelope as though it were a detonator. Small. Harmless looking. And capable of blowing apart whatever remained of his carefully constructed world. His fingers trembled as he broke the seal. The thin sheet of paper slid out easily. Almost gracefully, as if it knew exactly where it belonged. He unfolded it. And the moment his eyes skimmed the first line, his breath cracked open. No, he whispered. Elena, no, no, no. I said nothing. Silence is the cleanest weapon when the truth is already sharp enough. He kept reading, his chest rising too fast, panic filling the spaces where arrogance used to live. The letter was from the investigator. The same one who had been tracing the illegal transactions for over a year. The same one who had tried to contact him. The same one he had hidden from. And now the investigator had everything. Because I had given it to them. Elena, Martin whispered, voice shredded. You reported me? I told you, I said calmly. I don't start wars. I end the ones brought to my door. His lips parted, trembling. But, why now? Why would you help them? You know what they'll do to me. I stepped closer, not unkindly, but with a clarity he could no longer run from. Because you didn't just betray me, I said softly. You used our daughter's future to buy time. You let her tuition sit in limbo so you could pay criminals. You lied to her to protect your image. And worst of all. My voice held steady, every word measured. You put her in danger. He flinched, the truth landing hard enough to carve through denial. Elena, he whispered, I didn't mean to. Yes, I said. You did. He crumpled to the floor, knees hitting the cold concrete. The paper shook in his hands, his breath shallow, frantic. They'll take everything, he cried. Everything I have left. I looked down at him, not with cruelty, not with triumph. But with the sorrowful clarity of a woman who finally understood the quiet cost of loving a man who refused to love anything but his own reflection. They're not taking anything, Martin, I said softly. They're reclaiming what never belonged to you in the first place. His voice cracked. Please. Elena, save me. Please. I can't, I said. Not from this. Not anymore. His tears fell freely now, carving silent lines down his face. You told them, he whispered. You told them everything. I shook my head gently. Not everything, I said. Only the parts that needed to be known. His eyes lifted slowly, trembling with dread. What's left? He asked. What didn't you tell them? I crouched down so he could see the truth in my eyes, calm, steady, unbroken. The part about why, I said quietly. The part about what pushed you over the edge. The part that makes you terrified to sleep at night. He stared at me, hollow and lost. What do you mean? I stood again, letting the cold morning air flow through the small hallway. You weren't caught because you were unlucky, I said. You were caught because someone tipped them off months ago. He frowned through the panic. Someone. I nodded. He swallowed hard. Who? I met his eyes. Slowly, deliberately. The girl, I said. The one even younger than Sienna. The one whose parents threatened legal action. The one you thought you silenced. His face drained completely. No color. No breath. No denial. Only the sharp, devastating realization that the truth he buried didn't stay buried. It grew roots. Elena, he choked, voice breaking. Please don't say that. I don't need to say anything, I replied calmly. She already did. He collapsed into himself, a man finally crushed under the weight of the life he built on deception. The air was still. Cold. Absolute. I turned toward the exit, my voice a quiet echo behind me. I didn't destroy you, Martin. You did. I simply stopped standing between you and the consequences. He sobbed into his hands, broken, unrecognizable. The hallway seemed to shrink around him, swallowing the last of his illusions. And then, just as I reached the stairs, my phone vibrated again. One message. From an unknown number. 6 words. 6 words that froze me mid-step. We know who you are, Elena. I exhaled slowly. Not fear. Not shock. Just understanding. The final chapter wasn't Martin's. It was mine, ***.